Well, hello there, you lovely bunch of bloodthirsty curb stompers. It's time for a particular sort of episode, a Christmas episode, if you will. Let us float down the murky waters of the San Antonio River like a bunch of floating turds, while I tell you a sweet Christmas story. Well, sweet in the crossing a frozen river on an empty stomach without having eaten vegetables in months, and drunk, all to go stab hungover Germans in the dick sort of way. Okay, so let's set the scene. It's December 1776. The American Revolution has been popping off for about a year or so. Some of the most iconic battles have already been fought. Lexington, Concord, the capture of Fort Ticonderoga, and Bunker Hill. And despite some early defeats, the British put their cock-flavored tea down, unpowdered their wigs, and proceeded to give a polite ass-pounding to Washington and the Continental Army that left the entire concept of independence in the balance. All to get stabbed in the tits by some fuckboy from London. Or shit yourself to death because you drank a cup of water. Or, if you manage to fire your weapon at the enemy, the fucking thing explodes in your face because it's a piece of shit and the guns back then would work that thing. All to get stabbed in the tits by some fuckboy from London. Or shit yourself to death because you drank a cup of water. Or, if you manage to fire your weapon at the enemy, the fucking thing explodes in your face because it's a piece of shit and guns back then worked by magic. Washington's pucker factor was maximum because there was no help coming. Or at least, not in any easy to predict timeline. Our man George needed to kill someone. He needed to win. A safe but juicy target. A propaganda victory if nothing else. Oh, and guess what? He just so happened to be just a day's ride from a soft target. A Hessian garrison quartered for Christmas in Trenton, New Jersey. Now I know I just called the Hessians a soft target. In reality, they were probably way worse than the British in many ways, with the added bonus of being fucking German. They were tough, disciplined, and veterans of European campaigns. To them, this was an absolute cakewalk. The war was basically won. And they were going to celebrate Christmas as the Germans have done since they invented it. Get absolutely blackout drunk, watch some disgusting German porn, and eat ass for dinner. Side note, I know the Hessian troops' binge drinking has been proven as a part of the legend of the battle, and that they were probably sober. But we're going with the legend version here. Like a Marxist college student, we won't let facts get in the way of a good time. Moving on. The Americans needed the food, that booze, and that good old German porn. So Washington gets his staff together and tells them the plan. They all look at him like he's a fucking absolute maniac. So he drops his trousers and pulls out his vast balls on top of the campaign map. No one had a counter argument. The plan was a go. Now, whatever you might see in this famous painting of the crossing, the shit was not graceful. It was done in Durham boats operated by a bunch of hard-as-nails boatsmen from the area that knew the waters and how to cross safely. Even with that, some troops didn't make it across in time because of the horrible weather, and a couple of guys died of exposure. But this was the 18th century, and people died of ghosts in their blood and shit. But he did get across with some 2,400 troops. They start the freezing trek towards Trenton in the pre-dawn hours. As I said, the Hessians felt safe on this side of the river at this time of year, and especially after the Americans were basically curb stomped all over New York. So when they finally found themselves surrounded on three sides by a bunch of hungry, angry Americans armed to the teeth, holding the high ground and formed to advance, well, it didn't go well for them. The Americans even had artillery at critical points. So it was a landslide, and I mean a fucking landslide. Washington sent his men in with bayonets, pikes, big fucking clubs, whatever. Get in there, clear the fucking town. The Hessians drunkenly scrambled to defense, and it went about as well as you could imagine. Confused and scared Hessian soldiers came streaming out of their lodges all over Trenton to a rallying point. Unfortunately, This position was almost instantly flanked, encircled, and cut off. These guys were professional soldiers, and so they beat their surrender without much of a fight. The brunt of the action was at close quarters, with dudes stabbing Germans in the face. Remember, kids, there is no reloading with stabbing. The Americans killed 22 Hessians, wounded 83, and captured 800 to 900. It was exactly what Washington needed. Something to turn the American morale, change their focus, and show them that if they persevere and use their wits, they can actually win their independence. The battle had an effect disproportionate to its size. Re-enlistment went up, and Congress was energized. That is what a great leader with massive cojones can do, people. He took his team from a defeatist mentality to an aggressive, we can win mindset. So what the fuck is going on with Miami Dolphins? Washington can cross the Delaware. Washington can cross the Delaware without having to get any vitamin C in his fucking body, but you guys can't fix your fucking lineup? Come on, you're killing me in fantasy this year. So there you have it, kids. As my old sergeant used to say, when shit goes wrong, attack. And if you're wrong, at least you're being aggressively wrong. It's been a fun year. Sharing the gift of violence with you and your family has been an enriching experience. For me and my war boner. We'll see you next year when we explore new violent but true bedtime stories. And as an added bonus, we will be premiering Fantastic Shitbags of History, where we'll be exploring all the fucking douchebags of history and their blue falconry. Merry Christmas, kids. Sleep tight and stack bodies.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.